altered? Does it matter? Right now in Atlanta, Ryan Smith, who's a host for In Session on our sister network, True TV. With me in New York is Vikki Ziegler, who's a family attorney. So I've listened to these 5 tapes that have come out, and edited or not, what's on these things, it's vile and it's disgusting. Vikki, to the Showbiz Flashpoint, even if the tapes were altered, does it matter?
I mean, if they're altered, the question really becomes, can they be produced in a court of law in terms of evidence in the domestic violence hearing, in the custody hearing, and maybe in the criminal case? But I think, listen, every judge in America has probably heard these tapes in some form or at least read them.
Sure.
So I think Mel Gibson, if it is Mel Gibson, has a major problem of credibility on his hands.
Yeah, it really is 2 points. It's the whole idea of credibility because the words are the words. That's not, I don't think, what is being contended to have been altered in any way. So Ryan Smith, to our Showbiz Flashpoint, does it matter?
I think it does matter. I think you do have an evidentiary problem, like Vikki just said. But I think also you got to say, okay, if this was tampered with or changed, was he talking to her on these tapes? Do we hear him say, hey, Oksana, blah, blah, blah? So I think, you know, you got to not only question, is it his voice? You got to question if they're tampered. And then who was he speaking to? Because these tapes would have to apply to her to have any effect on his domestic violence hearing.
That's a really interesting point. And when you think about all of the tapes that have been released thus far, and I am sure there are more coming, we have not heard the mention of anybody's name on these tapes. Now, Radar Online flatly denies that the tapes were altered. I do want to listen to a brand new portion of this 5th tape that Radar Online released today, and this we haven't heard yet. The man purported to be Mel Gibson is just furious because he sold his box seats for the LA Lakers because he says he's in deep financial trouble. Listen to this.
I sold it because of you. I don't have any money. I have to support you and everybody else. I have to sell paintings.
Well, maybe it's because of them. Maybe.
The Lakers game.
Well, maybe it's because of others that you sold it. Why are you blaming it on me?
You need to ask for that when you know what kind of trouble I'm in. I spent more than $5 million on you.
That's not on me. And that was signed. I was signed to.
Thank you.
That was signed to the record label.
Thank you now.
I always said thank you.
You know right now.
I mean, regardless of who this is, if it's not Mel Gibson, the rage is certainly shocking. But like a lot of people, I was shocked to hear that the man believed to be Mel on these tapes saying he's got money trouble. At one point, Mel Gibson was reportedly worth something like $1 billion. But Vikki, certainly, does any amount of financial difficulty justify the rage, the outrage that we're hearing on these tapes?
Never, never, never. People in relationships fight about all different things, money, support, whoever went out the night before. The problem is you cannot mitigate anything in a court of law based upon those things that he has said. If it is Mel Gibson, there is no excuse whatsoever to threaten somebody, to cause violence to them, under any circumstances, period, the end. So I'm sorry if he has money problems. Who could lose $1 billion? I don't even know. You can't even give that kind of money away. But it's ridiculous. It's a bad excuse, and it's unacceptable behavior.
And it's going to be very interesting to see how things unfold as they go to court, and they're going to court next week to talk about the restraining order and some other things to see what other evidence, if any, exists to prove some of the claims being made by Oksana, specifically about the domestic violence. But let's not forget, there are those who believe Oksana herself might be behind the leaking of these tapes and setting Mel up for a big payout, something that she's denied. If it turns out that he is in financial trouble and doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, Ryan, does that just change everything here?
Maybe it does. I mean, it really depends on what his assets are, what is she asking for. But as far as I know, they're not married or he doesn't know her anything. My big question is what's going on with his settlement with his other wife, because that may change the picture for them. But I think the big thing for him right now is it's just frankly flat out embarrassing. Not only is he coming off, if it is in fact him, as a raving lunatic, but he's also showing his entire public life out there. So whether she leaked that or not, I don't think it affects anything necessarily with what's going on with her. My big question is, in this restraining order type situation, if this was said directly to her during the time after she got that restraining order, he could be in big trouble because that could be a criminal threat.
Yeah, and again, we're going to have to see exactly how things unfold when they are expected to be in court about that restraining order next week. And Showbiz Tonight has continued to reach out to Mel Gibson for a response and to verify the authenticity of these audio tapes. So far, he hasn't commented. Ryan Smith, Vikki Ziegler, thank you both.